Haboim. Welcome everyone. We're about to begin Be'ezras Hashem together on Daf Lamed Aleph Amud Beis. Starting with Daf Lamed Aleph, 6 lines from the bottom. The Gemara is talking about a case where somebody lends money to his borrower, and the borrower says, in order to secure the loan, that if I do not pay you back the time that the loan is due, then you can collect my property. Then, lo and behold, the loan is due and he does not pay. So he collects the property. The question is that going back that he was collecting limafreya, or is it only mikanu lahaba from now on? So now that's a machlekes between Abaye and Rava. Abaye is of the opinion that he's gova limafreya, that it meant that it's retroactive. From the time that they made the loan, he already was now the one who owned this property. Rava says no, he only defaults now, and only from mikanu lahabo he becomes the owner of this property. Lamai nafka mina, the Gemara explains that in a situation where the malva gets up in the interim, and he either makdish the property to hekdesh, or he sells the property. Is it going to be chal or not? According to Abaye, since he was retroactively the owner, therefore indeed it would be a good sale or a good hekdesh. Whereas, according to Rava, not. Says the Gemara, Leimo Kitanai, let us suggest this machlokes between Abaye and Rava, whether he's gava lemafreya or he's only gava mikanu lahabo, is a machlokes between two tanoim. Yisrael shehilve lenochri al chemtzoi la'achar Pesach eino oiver. A Yisrael that lends money to a nochri, and the nochri, he gives an assurance for his own chametz to the Yisrael. If he doesn't pay on time, then the Yisrael will then collect that chametz. So this loan we're talking about is done before Pesach, and the loan is due after Pesach, and lo and behold, the loive, the nachri, does not pay on time. So it states over here, after Pesach, he's not oiver. That means that the chametz after Pesach is mutter, is permissible. Mishum Rabbi Meir oimru oiver. Rabbi Meir, they said in the name of Rabbi Meir that he is oiver, that this chametz is going to be something that's prohibited after Pesach. Says the Gemara to explain, my la behoka mifligi. Is it not in the following that they are arguing, the Tanakam and Rabbi Meir? Again, Tanakama says he's not oiver in such a case, whereas Rabbi Meir says he is oiver. The mar sover lemafreya hu goive. That Mar holds that lemafreya he's goive. That means to say that it was belonging to the Yisrael the entire time. And therefore this is the opinion of Rabbi Meir, that he would be oiver. Again, it was the chametz of the nochri that was assured to the malva Yisrael. He did not pay, and we're suggesting that Rabbi Meir says the reason why he's oiver is because lemafreya, the Jew became the owner of this chametz. And therefore it's Chamish Shov Alav Pesach Shel Yisrael, and it's prohibited. Umar Sover Mikanu Lahabo Goiver. And the Tanakama that said he's not Oiver is because it was the Nochri's Chametz until after Pesach, when he did not pay his loan, then it became now the Yisrael's, and therefore it's permissible Chametz. And that would be the opinion of Rava. So the Tanakama we're putting together with Rava, and we're putting Abaye together with Rabbi Meir. That's the suggestion. Ask the Gemara, V'tizbara, do you really think so? Ema Seifa, look at the Seif of this Brisa. What does it say? Aval Nochri Shehilvel the Yisrael, the opposite case, where the Loive is the Yisrael. That means the Nochri is lending money to the Yisrael. Al Chemtzoi, on the Yisrael's chametz, on the assurance of the chametz of the Yisrael. La'achar Pesach Divrei Hakol Oiver. Here it says in the Brisa, everybody agrees after the Pesach, this chametz is prohibited. So again, we have a situation when the Yisrael is the borrower of the Nochri's chametz, and when he borrows it with the assurance of his own chametz. Now comes after Pesach, and the din is according to everybody that chametz is prohibited. Ask the Gemara, Vaha ibcha mi boy. We should say the opposite of what we just said in the Reisha, if we want to be consistent. Leman do omar hasam einoi oiver. That means, according to the Tanakama, that we said Einoi Oiver because we say it's Mikanu Lahabo. then hacha oiver. Here it should be oiver, because mikanu lahaba. It was the Jews' chametz all along until he defaulted on the loan after Pesach, which now becomes the Nachri's chametz. So then it should say that indeed he is oiver, because it's a Jew's chametz. She'ovar leva Pesach, Yisrael's chametz is prohibited. Laman da'omar hasam oiver hacha ein oiver. The man da'omar over there, namely Rabbi Meir, that says that he is oiver. Then over here, he should say he's not oiver. Why? Because he's learning that limafreya, that in the first case above, Rabbi Meir says that he is oiver because it was the Nochri's chametz that he lent with the insurance on, and he defaulted, whereby it was the Yisrael's limafreya during Pesach. So therefore he was oiver. Over here, when it's the opposite scenario, when it's the Nochri who lends to the Jew on his chametz, if you want to say like Rabbi Meir and be consistent, then limafreya, it should be the Nochri's chametz, the entire Pesach, whereby this is now translating hands after Pesach to the Nochri, whereby mikanu lahabo, it should be mutter, and therefore eino oiver. On top of Lamed Aleph Amud Beis, Ella says the Gemara, that can't be the machlokes. What we're suggesting that Abaye and Rav are going like the machlokes in the Tanakama and Rabbi Meir. Here we're talking about a case where he deposited the chametz by him. So what's the machlokes? They're arguing about whether he's koine a mashkoin or not. Depends on the scenario. Rabbi Yitzchak teaches us the following. Domar Rabbi Yitzchak. Now, although Rabbi Yitzchak indeed is an Amora, but this is a teaching that was really only revealed by Rabbi Yitzchak. It was already known before by Rabbi Meir and the Chachamim as well. Domar Rabbi Yitzchak, what does he teach? Minayin leba'al choiv shekonim mashkoin. Where do I know that a ba'al choiv, a creditor, he acquires the mashkoin that was deposited with him? Shnema, it says in the pasuk. I'll read the entire pasuk. It says like this: Hoshev toshiv loy es ha'avoit keboy hashemesh. When the sun sets, give back the borrower his mashkoin. V'shochav b'simlosoi, and so he can then lie down with his pajamas with the simla that he wears at night. Uveiracheka, and he will bless you. Ulachoti et tzedakah, and to you it shall be righteousness. Lifnei Hashem Elokecha, before HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So going back to the Gemara now quotes this pasuk. Rabbi Yitzchak says, "Minayin lebal choiv shekonim mashkoin." Where do I know, says Rabbi Yitzchak, that a bal choiv, the creditor, he acquires the mashkoin that was deposited with him? Shenemar, it says, "Ulechoti et tzedakah." In this pasuk, it says that after the lender will return the mashkoin back to the borrower, then it will be for him like righteousness. If he was not acquiring the mashka in the first place, it did not now belong to the creditor, when he gives it back, why is it considered to be tzedakah? Only if it's going to be his, and he gives it back to the debtor. Then it's considered to be a righteousness. But if he's only going to give back which already was the debtor, that's not going to be a tzedakah. Mikan lebal choiv shekona mashkoin. From here we learn out that the bal choiv is, yes, acquiring the mashkoin. So therefore, when we apply it back to the machlokes before, Tanakama sovar, Hanimili Yisrael mi Yisrael. When a Jew acquires from another Yisrael his mashkoin, then that's going to be considered to be a kinyan. He's kind of the mashkoin when it was deposited by him. Hu dekorni beilachoti tzedakah. Aval Yisrael mi nochri loy koni. But the Yisrael does not koine from the nochri. Therefore, he's not koine. Therefore, if we go back and apply that to the case, the first brisa that we said, in this brisa, we're talking about a scenario where the Yisrael, he lent money to the Nachri defaulted, and therefore that chametz that was deposited to the Yisrael in the initial part, that was, we're suggesting, was acquired, or according to Tanakama rather, was not acquired by the lender, by the creditor. Again, Tanakama says, "Hani mili Yisrael Yisrael." Only when a Yisrael is then taking that deposit from another Yisrael, then we say the karnile the hochati tzedakah. Aval Yisrael b'nochri loikani, but a Yisrael does not acquire from the nochri. And therefore, in that scenario, again, when the Yisrael, he was the one who lent money to the Nachri, he did not acquire the chametz in the beginning of Pesach, and therefore, it's not going to be his. Whereby the Tanakama says that he's not oiver. Rabbi Meir savar kal v'chomer. Rabbi Meir says that he is oiver. He holds kal v'chomer. Yisrael mi Yisrael kani. If a Yisrael is koine a mashkon from another Yisrael, then Yisrael menochri l'kol sheken. Certainly he acquires from a menochri, and therefore it was really indeed acquired by the nochri, and therefore when the Yisrael borrowed money from, we're talking about a case where the Yisrael lent money to the Nachri, therefore it was acquired by the Yisrael already from the onset, in the time of Pesach, whereby Rabbi Meir says that he is oiver. So that's the machlokes between the Tanakama and Rabbi Meir, gabe, whether he's oiver or not. Aval Nachri shehilva es Yisrael, the seif of the Brisa says that Nachri, that lent money to a Yisrael, on the Yisrael's al-chemtza, on his chametz, on his assurance of chametz, achar ha-pesach divrei hakol oiver. Everybody agrees that chametz is going to be prohibited. Why? Because hasam vadei nochri Yisrael lakani. Everybody agrees that the nochri did not acquire the chametz from the Yisrael, and therefore, again, this is considered to be chametz she'ovar lava pesach shel Yisrael, and therefore everybody agrees that he's oiver. The Gemara now brings the Mishnah Tanan. Our Mishnah states Nachri shehilva Yisrael al chemtzai. A Nachri who lends money to Yisrael on the Yisrael's chametz. Achar ha-pesach muter bahana. Here it says in the Mishnah otherwise. It says that after Pesach is muter bahana. So nehi nami deherhinu etzloi. The Gemara comes to explain. Granted, over here he deposited the chametz, and therefore, since he deposited the chametz by the Nachri who lent him the money, therefore, if he defaults, right, what's the din? Still, ha'amris Nachri Yisrael lokani. But you still said that that's not good enough. Even though he deposited the chametz eitzel the Nachri, but you told me before that the Nachri is not going to acquire the mashkoin. If that's the case, why here in the Mishnah does it say it's muter bahana, as if to say that he acquired it lemafreya during the time of Pesach? Says the Gemara Lokashya, because Hada Amar Lo Me'achshav Hada Lo Amar Lo Me'achshav. The machlokes over here, the difference is that in the Mishnah he says Me'achshav. That means not only did he deposit his chametz by the Nachri, when the Yisrael deposited the chametz by the Nachri, he said, it'll be yours Me'achshav if I default on the loan after Pesach. Whereby, when he defaulted on the loan after Pesach, then Limafreya, the Nachri acquired the chametz, and therefore is always belonging to the Nachri throughout Pesach. Now, Chametz she'ovar lava Pesach shel Nachri is mutter, and that's what the Mishnah says. And that which it said in the Brisa, the opposite is because he didn't say Me'achshav. Where do you know to say that there's such a chiluk, that when you say Me'achshav, he acquires it from the time that he is Me'achshav, the Mafreya. And when he doesn't say Me'achshav, even though he deposited it, it's not good enough. He wasn't acquiring it. The Tanya states in the Brisa, Nachri shehirhin pas purni etzel Yisrael eino oiver. A Nachri that deposits a large loaf of bread that was baked in a large oven, and he deposited that mashkoin by the Yisrael, it says eino oiver. The Yisrael is not oiver. That means that it belonged to the Nachri the entire time. V'im omar loi. However, if the Nachri said to the Yisrael, higaticha, then oiver. If he said to him, it has higaticha, it is yours, then he is oiver. So Gemara says that the higaticha obviously is something that makes the difference. Maishna, Reish Maishna say, what is this difference when he says higaticha, it is yours? Explains the Gemara, Ella lav shmamino, is it not that we derive from here, shiny heicha damar le me'achshav del heicha del amar le achshav? Is it not different when he says me'achshav higaticha, means It's yours because it is yours from now. If I default on the loan, then it will be yours from the time that I now depositing the chayfetz, in this case the chametz, to you, whereby it becomes the other person, in this case the Yisrael's lemafreya. Whereas if he does not say me'akshav, it does not become his. Shma mina, that's the chiluk between the Mishnah and our brisa. Tonu Rabban, the Gemara brings a brisa, chanus shel Yisrael umlai shel Yisrael. If you have a Jewish store, a little supermarket, a little market that's owned by a Jew, and the merchandise belongs, it's from Jewish merchandise. Upoale nochrim, and the workers are nochrim. Then it says that are nichnasim l'sham, that enter there, they're working there. Chametz shenimtza sham achar Pesach oser bahano. The Brisa says if you find chametz after Pesach, then you can assume it belongs to the Yisrael who owns the store, and the merchandise belongs to the Yisrael. Whereby chametz she'oval of Pesach shel Yisrael is oser. Vein tzarich lo ba'achila, and certainly it's going to be oser ba'achila. In the opposite scenario, the Brisa goes on to say, Hano, Chanu shel Nochri, Umilai shel Nochri. If it's a Nochri, a Gentile store, and it's the merchandise that belongs to the Gentile, and the workers are Jewish workers, here we say the opposite. If there is chametz she'oval of Pesach, you can assume it belongs to the Nochri, since he is the owner of the store and it's the merchandise of the Nochri, and therefore it's muter behana. The Gemara now brings the next Mishnah. Chametz shenoflo alav mapoiles. If there's chametz that a wall fell on, and now there is a rubble, there's a pile of bricks or stones, that is a heap of stones piling up and bearing that chametz. Harehu kemuvuar. It's considered lahalacha that it's muvuar, that it was already destroyed, and therefore you don't have to then seek it out and destroy it. Rabban Shimon Gamliel Oimer. Rabban Shimon Gamliel comes to explain the Mishnah. Kol she'eina kelev yachol lechapes acharov. This is providing that a dog cannot seek out such chametz. Then it's considered kimavuar. If the dog could, yes, go ahead and unearth the rubble, thereby revealing the chametz, obviously it's not kimavuar. Those are the words of Rabban Gamliel. Says the Gemara, Omar Rav Chizda v'tzorich sheyivatel beliboy. Rav Chizda says, midirabanan, however, you're required to mevatel your chametz. Why? Because maybe somehow during Pesach it'll become unearthed, and thereby it'll be a problem of Bayera Yamotze. If you do not go ahead and mevatil now, and therefore, in order to prevent a person from an Isser Deraisa Bayera Yamotze, the potentiality from happening, thereby even now mevatil, whereby if it does happen, the person will not be over these Isurim. Tana. The Gemara brings up Brisa. Kama chafishas hachelev. What's considered to be enough that it's buried down in the ground, that we don't say that the kelev can go ahead and search out the chametz. That's considered to be mevuar. Says the Gemara, shloisha tefachim. The Brisa says when it's 3 tefachim or deeper in the ground, underneath this heap of stones, that's considered to be buried enough where it's kimuvuar. However, if it's less than that, then it's not. And therefore you have to go ahead and unearth it yourself and mevar the chametz. Omar le Rav Acha b'rei Rav Yosef le Rav Ashi hodamar Shmuel ksafim ein lahem shmira ela bekarka. Shmuel said that a person is a shomer chinam on money. He is given some money to watch as a shomer chinam. Then, in order to protect that money from either theft or from being lost, he must bury it in the ground. Otherwise, if it gets lost or stolen, he's going to be culpable, because it's going to be a pshia if he did not put it and bury it into the ground. So ask the Gemara, mi bo'in shloisha tefachim or lo? Does it require the depth of 3 tefachim into the ground or not? In other words, does it have the same requirement as the chametz that we are saying here that requires 3 tefachim? Omar lei. He said, Hacha mishum reicha ba'inan shloisha tefachim. Hasa mishum ikasuye me'ena hu v'loi ba'ina shloisha. There's a chiluk. The chiluk is that when it comes to chametz, the reason why it requires 3 tefachim or deeper is because that it should not have a smell that the dog will detect and then unearth the chametz. Whereas when it comes to putting into the ground as a shomer, it's enough so just that a ganav does not see the money. 1 tefach from the ground is sufficient for that. And that's the Gemara asks, V'kama, how much is that sufficient? Omar Afram bar Papa misichro tefach. 1 tefach, that is enough to be considered to be a good shmirah.